Hi friends, I'm Sherry and this is Gardening in the North, and it's been about 6 weeks since my last garden tour, and there have been a couple reasons for that. One, I've been super busy with other things going on in our lives, and I really just haven't had the time to put out the content that I normally would, and so I would like to offer you all an apology for that. All of you that subscribe to my channel, I haven't been keeping up my end of the bargain, and I'm hoping to do better. Sometimes we need to take a little bit of a break when we have too much going on, and that's kind of what I did. The other reason for it as well is the lack of rain. And so because of the lack of rain, my garden hasn't been doing as well as years past. And I've been a little bit disappointed with it, and quite honestly, really just didn't want to show it. Not that it's embarrassing or anything like that. I haven't done anything wrong, but you know, in 6 weeks it has rained twice. And so the first time was about 2 weeks ago, so we were at about the 4-week mark, and it barely rained, just enough to you know, make the cars look like it had rained, but the grass, the wood chips up in my garden, you couldn't tell that it had rained. The second time that it's rained was last night, and it rained pretty good, and so thankfully the garden has gotten some water. I've been using the well water that we have. We have 2 sprinklers in our garden, and so one of them is one of those oscillating sprinklers, and it's hooked up to a hydrant that is hooked up to our well. And so we use that for part of the garden, and then we use our pond that we share with our neighbor to water the rest of the garden. And we have a sprinkler, a very heavy duty sprinkler that I will show you, where we pump water out of the pond into the garden. And I'm going to take you over there and show you how low that pond has gotten. Almost every time before I water the garden, I have to go over to the pond and move the pump further out into the water, keeping in mind that I'm not a fan of snakes, and I just have to look at poison ivy and I get itchy. And so it's been a bit of a hassle for me, if I quite honest with you, and I can honestly say that this whole week passed and I did not water the garden. So having said that, let's get started. I'm going to take you over to the rock wall here, and we're going to take a little bit of a look there. There's a couple things I want to share with you, and then we're going to head over to the pond where I can show you just how dry it is. As we walk over to the rock wall, I just want you to take a quick look at our lack of grass. We have tried really hard to grow some grass here, and it has not taken. We've done hydro seeding, we've done seed, and none of it seems to take in this soil. I don't know what is going on. We decided not to attempt more seed this year, only because one, we just didn't have time to water it, and thankfully we didn't, because there was no rain to help us out with that. And so a couple things I want to show you here. I want to show you my Egyptian walking onions. I like to plant these onions everywhere. I think that they just add a really unique look to any garden that you have. And I just want to point out the little bulbs that are on top here. So these are ready to be pulled off and planted elsewhere. They're also ready to be pulled off and shared with others. So next to it we have an elderberry, and we did not get, oh, hold on a second. We got, it looks like, let me see here. It looks like we got 4 berries on that, and we got 4 more there. I think the birds must have been at this. We really didn't get a whole lot of elderberries on that plant this year, or that bush this year, and it looks like some of them have been already eaten off, so it must be the birds. Next to it I have comfrey. So comfrey is also one of those plants like the Egyptian walking onions that I love to have in my ornamental gardens as well. And so this is just a plant that you absolutely cannot kill. I love having it in the garden as greenery, and let's not forget that the chickens love comfrey. Okay, let's take a look at our peach tree. It is year 1 for this tree. We just bought it at the beginning of the season, planted it, and we thought we pulled off all of the flowers. We were told by the nursery that year one, you really don't want your trees to produce fruit. You want to pull off those flowers so that the energy can be put towards growing roots. And so I was pretty sure that we did that. We must have missed some. Maybe didn't come out here after we had pulled off the initial flowers and more grew. But are you kidding me? Look at these peaches that are on here. Like, let me see. They're still a little bit hard. I'm getting a little bit worried about that branch that has the two of them on there. Oh my gosh. Okay, like I'm not even worried about that one compared to this one here. They're pretty hard. I'm not sure what I should do. Maybe I should pull those off and put them in the window to ripen. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think about it. But like, I can't believe that this tree has peaches. We planted a peach tree up in the garden, and two of them actually, and neither of them took. And look at this one, year one, it loves it. So we specifically picked this location for it so that in the winter time, it would have that rock wall to protect it from the wind, but to also provide it a little bit more warmth. So as the sun is shining down on this rock, while this rock wall faces west, so at the end of the, or midday to the end of the day, this rock has sun on it. And we just thought that that would provide the tree the safety and warmth that it needs throughout our Canadian winters. This tree here is our new nectarine tree. My daughter gave this to me for Mother's Day. So we got this planted right away. And again, same thing as the peach tree. We really wanted to make sure that it had some safety from the wind and from our Canadian winters. And it is also producing some fruit on there. So it's very exciting. Okay, I wanted to give you an idea of the layout of where everything is. And so you can see that the rock wall is there. And then up here is our garden. Behind that is our fruit trees. And then over this way further is the house and the chicken coop. And then if I go this way a little bit further, you'll see that we have our fire pit up there. And then we have a lot of sumacs and some other weeds and whatnot growing through here. And this is where I have to go for the pond. And I can tell you right now that my arm is already, let me see, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I don't think you can see it, but my arm is already itchy and I haven't even gone in here yet. Okay, so here is a look at how dry this pond is. Thankfully, our neighbor doesn't use this pond to water his garden, or I may have been in some trouble in terms of watering the garden when I was able to water it. Okay, so here's a great indicator. This tree right here, you can see this line right there. That is where the water was. And then you can see down below where the water is, just to give you an indicator of just how dry our summer has been and how much of this pond water I've been using. Okay, so this is the pump here. It's very similar to a lawnmower. You just do the pull and then the water starts pumping out of that pond. And then you can see that blue hose there. We have that all the way around this area here, past the hydrant that I use for the well. And then if I just continue on here and following the blue over to our sprinkler, and when I get over there I will show it to you up close a little bit better. So one interesting thing that I want to share with you is the size difference in our trees. And so this tree right here is a sweet cherry tree. We planted that one last year. And then if I just come over here, you're gonna see this big bushy tree here is our peach tree. And I wish I had taken, actually, if I come up real close, you'll see this part right here is the original tree that we planted 2 years ago. And it's dead, but out of the ground grew 2 new leaders. And so I'm gonna have to come over and decide which one I want to keep. It is leaning, it's a little bit too heavy, so I think I'm also going to have to stake it up or just decide which one I'd rather keep. But I'll think about that later. And then over here we have, in this mess here, a tiny little cherry tree. But what I want to show you is this giant cherry tree here. This tree here was actually, it was pretty much close to the size of this one at the beginning of the season, and it has just taken off. Now, I will say that I'm not upset about it because it will provide some shade to my actual garden, which it severely needs. So this here is my Egyptian walking onion bed. Well, it's still the Egyptian walking onion bed. What I've done is I've pulled all of the Egyptian walking onions that I had there and I replanted with those little tiny bulbs. The idea that I have is to use my food processor and put them through the shredding feature so that I can then dehydrate them and make an onion soup mix powder so that I can use that for making dips or on my roasts or basically anything. Okay, so this bed here is the 2x2 bed that I built last year. I was really hoping to be able to grow some rosemary in it. This year I have basil on this side and it is a massive, massive bush. I will say that basil here in zone 5B, Ontario, Canada, tends to grow back. And so I'm really hoping that next year this basil grows back so that I don't have to replant it. I have to say that where I'm standing right now, it smells so delicious. So this also is another type of basil that I have growing there. And then if I span over this way, I have spearmint and mojito mint. And so where I'm standing right now is probably the most, I don't even know the word to use, but the smells that I'm getting from here is just beautiful. Okay, so on the other side of this bed, I have paprika peppers, and you can see the red in there. I need to harvest some of them and then get them into the dehydrator. Over here, I have butternut squash, and they're doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way this vine is going. It's really weird that this vine here is doing so well considering the lack of rain and the lack of TLC. And then when I span over to the other side, there is such a drastic difference between that side and this side. And I don't understand why, because they get the same amount of sun. And then that jungle of mess in there is just beets and turnips that or rutabagas that I just didn't harvest, which is quite embarrassing. And then here is my calendula. Now, I'm going to come out here probably in the next couple days, and I'm going to harvest all of these seeds. So let me just show you. So you just take this and you pull them off, and everything that's in my hand are calendula seeds. And so there is amazing amount of seeds here. I'm going to share them with friends and family. I did not plant this here this year. This reseeded from last year. Okay, so So one thing that I'm going to say ahead of time is that I pruned my tomato plants twice this year, and that's it. So you can see over here how they're just hanging and growing whichever way they wish, and honestly they're producing, so I'm just kind of letting them be. In front is another example of that. It is a little bit of chaos. You can see that there is one down here. It was growing into the wood chips. I left it. Originally I tied it up when I came out here, and now I've just kind of left it. And so like everything is producing. I really don't want to you know, tie everything up now because it would be way too much work. I literally should have been doing it on a weekly basis. Look at these tomatoes. Like they are, I'm going to pull this one off. Like, look at this tomato. It is so pretty. Now, I wish I could tell you what this is. I don't have the packages with me right now. All of the markers that I used in order to know what tomatoes I had planted, I didn't cover them in packing tape this year. I'm not sure why. And of course, all of the print has, you know, faded away, and I don't even know what tomatoes I have growing where, unless I've grown them before and I recognize them. So the ones that I'm showing you right now that are growing up on this trellis are Juliet's, and they will always be a staple in my garden. And then I'm just going to show you that one that I originally showed you. It's just growing out. It's being held up with some of that little bit of thin rope. Good luck to it. Okay, so let's just back up here a little bit. I want to show you growing tomatoes on a trellis is probably one of my favorite things. And I just love the fact that, you know, with the lack of rain that we've had, my tomatoes are thriving. Like, this is so pretty. I may do 2 arch trellises next year of tomatoes. Okay, so like every other video I've ever done for you, I like to show you the truth on what is going on. And so these are my Brussels sprouts. I can see that some of them are starting to take, but if I just show you like right in here, like they're not tight little asparagus. I'm gonna call them balls. That's probably not the right word for it, but like look at how big that one is. It's totally opening up. Yeah, it doesn't feel super hard inside. It's coming apart. Those ones down there actually don't look too bad, so I'm kind of impressed with that. But like all of this, and I probably get a handful of Brussels sprouts. I don't know why I struggle so hard with Brussels sprouts, but I'm at least getting them, whereas the last time I tried to grow them, I couldn't even get them. I just got this big old stalk that grew. All right, so then I have some spaghetti squash, which we love. So this bed here is currently empty. I've planted some sunflowers there because I had them. My plan is to plant some more beets here. I'm hardening them off right now. I think I mentioned it in my last video that I will only plant beets with starts, and so I'm growing 2 trayfuls and I'm going to plant them in there. Okay, so let's take a look here. You can see this vine that is growing. I wish I could tell you the name of this zucchini. They are from West Coast Seeds, which is a Canadian company, and they are a vining zucchini. And so I'm just going to show you up here. There's a green one there, and it is literally vining. At first I was kind of shocked. I was like, what is going on here? And then I looked back at my seeds. You can see there's a yellow one in there. That is not from a vining one. It's just the green ones. So I looked back at my garden book to see what I had planted, and I realized that these seeds are from West Coast Seeds, and they are a vining zucchini variety, which is amazing. I really love that. Okay, what is going on over here? These are my grapes. And they're kind of crazy right now. So I have to go over and start twining them into that trellis to really contain them. Let me see if I see any grapes growing on them. I don't see any. I do see a nice big zucchini in there. Okay, so let's take a look at the rest of this zucchini bed. I have to say that I made the best zucchini soup the other day. I sauteed some of my Egyptian walking onions with some garlic from my dad's garden and some butter, and then I added in some red potatoes. My friend Annette gave me some seed potatoes, and I grew them and was able to add some of them into the pot, and then added the zucchini and some water, some chicken broth, and it was amazing. I just simmered it and then used my immersion blender and creamed it up. So this here is the second arch trellis that I have for grapes. Oh my gosh, look what I see. Grapes! I have grapes. So now that tells me that these are the green grapes, and the other ones that are going kind of crazy are the purple grapes. That's quite exciting. Okay, so on this side we have tomatoes. And again, it's a little bit crazy. What do we got in here? Oh, I do know that those are banana legs, and I believe this one here is rainbow. Either rainbow or, yes, I think it is rainbow. And then I'm just going to go to the back here, show you that I have tomatoes growing here. I have my baskets waiting for me in the wagon. And then here are all of our beets. And so I've just been using this bed as a storage container and pulling them whenever we need them. This here is the rapacante squash that I have. It's doing pretty good. It's doing much better on this side. I will say that I love the look of the squash growing up the trellis and then hanging down. Unfortunately, I guess one of them stayed on this side, and so you can see that there is a big squash that's now hanging on the opposite side and into the bed. Okay, this big mess here, some peppers. Behind it we have some sort of tomatoes. But it's going pretty crazy. I should have tied those up. But, you know, you pick your battles. And so I'm really happy with my peppers and my tomatoes. They're doing great. Squash, cucumbers really seem to be struggling. So here's a look at some of my peppers. You can see in there. Another big one down here. So they're doing great. Like, I'm really happy with the amount of peppers that are growing on these plants. Okay, so let's come back here. This is the strawberry bed, and then back there I have the asparagus bed that I also planted strawberries in, and I had a bunch of the paprika peppers left over, so I just threw them in there and they seem to like it, so good for them. Okay, well, wouldn't you look at that? So whatever marker I used on this tag seems to have stayed, and I did not put packing tape on it. So I must have used a Sharpie instead of the regular marker that I need. And so this is the Bulgarian carrot pepper. I showed you, or I talked about this a little bit in the last video. I purposely bought these because they look like carrots, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we're gonna pull a carrot in a second. I haven't pulled one in a few weeks, but I just want to back up and show you what is going on here. So the only thing that is wrong with letting your plants go crazy like this is there isn't a lot of airflow, and so you could cause your plants to get sick because they don't have that airflow going through them. Like I said on the other bed, it's not worth it to me now to come out here and try to untangle and tidy up what is already going on here. Okay, so let's take a look at one of these and see. Yes, look at that. That looks amazing. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Like I said, I have my basket and wagon, and I'm gonna be harvesting a whole bunch and taking it back to the house to process. Is this real? This is a daikon, I think that's how you pronounce it, a daikon radish that didn't get picked back in, I don't know, I'm gonna say May. Oh my gosh, like let's just do this. That was a real quick walkthrough of what's going on here. I came out here to harvest, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna grab the camera and kind of walk you through quickly what's been going on out here and why you haven't seen me in a while. And I'm really glad that I did, because I think that for those of you out there that may find yourself in the same situation that I'm in, where you're working full-time, you're taking care of the house, you have activities that you like to enjoy outside of gardening, and you know, anything else that life might throw at you, that it's okay to let your garden go a little bit. It's okay. It's still going to produce for you. You've put the love into it initially to get it where it is, and it's going to show you love back. And so I just want to let you know to give yourself grace. I've given myself grace that my garden does not look like what I envisioned it to look like back in January when I was planning it out. And that's okay. It's okay, because you are never going to have the same garden that you had before. You could do everything the exact same way that you did last year, and this year's garden will be different because you can't control the weather or what life throws at you. So give yourself some grace. Thanks for spending your time with me.